Welcome to News Edge, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. Let's get after it. A major trade deal has been announced between the United States and Japan. President Trump calls it a huge win for America, but what's really on the table? At its core, this agreement aims to reshape the economic relationship between two of the world's biggest economies. It's not just about buying and selling goods. Japan is pledging a massive $550 billion investment to boost American industries. This deal could set a new precedent for how the US does business globally. The headline number $550 billion, over 10% of Japan's entire economy. The money is supposed to act as seed money to grow key US sectors. The administration frames this as a major victory for its America First policy. But here's the catch. How much of this is actually new money and how much was already planned? We're in the early stages, impressive numbers, strong rhetoric, but the deal is far from complete. Many details still need to be hammered out between Washington and Tokyo. Both sides are watching to see if this grand pledge will turn into real action. The outcome depends on tough negotiations and real commitment. The announcement is big, but the follow-through is what matters. The question is, will it deliver? Let's talk about the money. $550 billion, an eye-popping figure. But what does it really mean? President Trump says Japan will invest this sum in the US, promising jobs and economic growth. The administration touts it as proof their trade policies are working. The money is supposed to flow into critical sectors, energy, technology, manufacturing, but a pledge isn't a check in the bank. Right now, it's a target, not a binding contract. Is this public money from Japan's government, or private investment from Japanese corporations? That's a crucial distinction. The reality, the deal is still being negotiated, and the path from pledge to actual dollars is long. There's debate and uncertainty about whether the full amount will ever materialize. The world is watching. Will the money show up, or is this just a big number for headlines? Until we see real investment, it's all just talk. The $550 billion question remains. Is it real or just a splashy promise? Time will tell. Now, let's get to the heart of the deal: control. Who decides where this money goes? The Trump administration claims the president would have major say. That's highly unusual. Direct White House control over foreign investment is rare. The idea steer funds into industries seen as priorities for national security and growth. Then there's the profit question. US officials claim America would keep 90% of the profits from these investments. A huge win if true. But Japanese officials push back, saying profits should be shared based on contributions and risk. This disagreement shows the two sides aren't aligned on the financial details. The 90% figure is more a negotiating position than a done deal. The final profit-sharing arrangement will be decided behind closed doors. Until there's a written agreement, who truly benefits, and by how much, remains open. The administration's claims sound great, but the reality is still up for negotiation. Key details are not finalized. The profit split could look very different in the end. For now, it's all on the table, but nothing is set in stone. Where is all this money supposed to go? The $550 billion investment targets specific, strategic U.S. industries. Energy tops the list, aiming for American energy independence and global dominance. Next, semiconductors. The U.S. relies heavily on foreign-made chips, a major vulnerability. The deal aims to boost domestic chip manufacturing and secure supply chains. Shipbuilding is another focus, vital for trade and military strength. Critical minerals and pharmaceuticals are also on the list, essential for tech and public health. Plus, Japan has agreed to purchase airplanes from Boeing. These investments are strategically chosen to strengthen America's industrial base. The goal: create high-paying jobs, drive innovation, and reduce dependence on foreign supply chains. The plan is ambitious, but the targets are clear. It's about building resilience and securing America's economic future. The selection of these industries reveals a clear focus on long-term security. The question is, will the money actually flow into these sectors? Time for a reality check. Despite the big announcement, many experts are skeptical. Some call the $550 billion pledge vaporware, a flashy promise that may never materialize. The skepticism is rooted in the fact that this is just a pledge, not a binding contract. There's a stunning lack of detail. No timeline, no oversight, no clear plan. Without transparency, it's hard to believe the money will actually flow. Critics worry this is more about politics than economics. The deal could set a precedent for other countries to make big promises for immediate tariff relief, with no guarantee of follow-through. The lack of a firm commitment raises serious questions about the deal's substance. Until there's a formal enforceable contract, the vaporware label will stick. The benefits sound enormous, but they could vanish into thin air. For now, it's a headline, not a reality. The real test is whether the money ever arrives. Let's look at Japan's side. While the US makes bold declarations, Japanese officials are far more cautious. They emphasize that many key details are still being negotiated. Japan's lead negotiator says a written joint statement is needed. So far, that hasn't happened. Japanese leaders have pushed back on claims about quarterly reviews and fixed quotas for US rice imports. These are significant disagreements, not minor details. Japan is focused on stability and predictability, wary of sudden US policy changes like snap tariffs. Their cautious approach reflects a desire for a reliable, mutually agreed partnership, not just grand announcements. Japan is a key US ally, but it has its own interests to protect. They won't sign a blank check. The ongoing negotiations must bridge the gap between the US's bold vision and Japan's pragmatic approach. The deal's success depends on finding common ground. Until then, Japan is managing expectations and avoiding risky promises. The cautious stance from Tokyo is a critical piece of the puzzle. There's still a lot of work to turn this pledge into reality. Here's the biggest issue. There's no formal written agreement. Nothing has been signed, just verbal commitments and a general framework. This lack of a formal document fuels skepticism and uncertainty. Without a signed paper, the terms are just talk, open to interpretation and change. The timeline for the $550 billion investment is undefined. Is it over a decade? 2, nobody knows. No written agreement means no accountability for a specific schedule. Key elements like profit sharing and oversight are still up for negotiation. President Trump's claims about benefits aren't locked in. A formal contract would spell out responsibilities and consequences. Until then, it's an ambitious goal, not a concrete plan. The deal remains in limbo, a political statement, not a legal reality. The missing piece is the ink on the paper. Even if the pledge is sincere, there are big hurdles for Japanese companies. First, the high cost of doing business in the US. Labor is expensive. Tariffs imposed by the Trump administration could actually discourage investment. Many manufacturing processes rely on global supply chains, and tariffs drive up costs. This creates a contradiction. US policy invites investment but makes it less profitable. Legal and political uncertainty is another barrier. Businesses need stability to make long-term investments. The current trade environment is anything but stable. Tariffs face legal challenges, and rules could change at any time. These risks make companies hesitate to commit billions. High costs, tariff burdens, and unpredictability create a high wall for investment. Analysts doubt private firms will make such massive investments without changes. The government can promise, but companies write the checks. For the pledge to become reality, these hurdles must be addressed. So is this US-Japan deal a one-off or a new model for American trade? The formula of foreign country promises massive investment and gets relief from US tariffs. The administration is already pitching this approach to other nations. It's a shortcut to claim trade victories without lengthy negotiations. But there's a weakness. It relies on promises, not enforceable contracts. Countries could make grand pledges to escape tariffs with little accountability. The legal status of Trump's tariffs is also in question. If they're ruled illegal, the US loses its main bargaining chip. Why promise billions to avoid tariffs that might disappear anyway? The Japan deal is being held up as a success, but its true value is unproven. For this to be more than a number, 3 things must happen: a signed agreement, real economic hurdles addressed, and actual investment flowing. Only then can we call it a real success. Until then, this deal is a test case. It could be a new playbook, or a cautionary tale about the gap between promise and reality. The story isn't over yet.